Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our Booster Club members for your many donations and much more, your prayers. We visited faraway countries and strange lands. We've even spoken to dignitaries and were detained for spreading the glorious gospel in Cuba. The truth is that the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered throughout the world. Help us on our journey as we continue to raise up the nation of Israel. 12 tribes worldwide. Join or donate today. Shalom.
Real quick, I wanted to touch on the new year, in case of some of us not watching classes, because all praises to the Most High. Leadership hit New Year heavy this year, so all praises to the Most High. But in case of some of us missed it, let's go over real quick. So this is real fast. I'm going to run through it real quick. Let me know if it was too fast later. But it's short, so I just wanted to touch it real fast. I named it What's New About the New Year. What's new about the new year? Go to Mark chapter 7, verse 8. Mark chapter 7, verse 8. What's new about the new year?
It's the book of Mark, chapter 7 and verse 8. Mm-hmm. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men as the washing of pots and cups.
We hold the traditions of men. That's what we do today. We celebrate things and don't know the origin of it. We celebrate things and say it's for the kids, but we don't know what we're really celebrating. But those that created it and made it a holiday to be celebrated every year, guess what? They know the purpose of it and the reason for it. We don't. We hold traditions of men. Read, is that verse 9?
Still verse 8, sir.
Read.
And many other such like things ye do. And he said unto them, full well ye reject the commandment of God.
You see that? By us holding the traditions of men, we reject the commandments of God. It's the same difference. Now, Christ is telling them, you guys know what the commandments are. Reject that and hold the tradition of men. We do it today ignorantly because we don't know no better. But we still do it. And then when the truth comes out and we teach our people what we should be doing, then we reject it. Read.
That ye may keep your own tradition.
That you may what?
Keep your own tradition.
It's for the kids. It's about love. We're not celebrating that. We're doing it for this. But you won't do that, whatever you say that you're doing, on any other day. You reject it. Read on.
For Moses said, honor thy father and thy mother.
Oh, no, that's it. That's all we wanted, because then he goes into the topic that they're discussing. Go to Isaiah chapter 29. Isaiah chapter 29. So we hold the traditions of men and we reject the commandments of God by holding these traditions. Isaiah 29 verse 14, read that.
The book of Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 14. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish.
You see that? The wisdom of the wise men in this earth shall perish. Read.
And the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid.
You see that? Why? Because what has happened today? They can't give you no answers. The men that's supposed to be the leaders of our nation, the men, the preachers and pastors that's supposed to be teaching you, just as quick as we ran through the Bible to see what's going on today, they can't do it. Read on.
Verse 15, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel.
No, that's it. That's all I wanted from Isaiah 29. Pull that first one up I sent you for the class. The history of New Year. So let's get into the history real quick. This is not a major blog. This is a smaller blog because they're throwing something out there, obviously. They're trying to be undercover. Let's see what they said.
It says the history of the new year, updated December 17, 2020.
So this was just updated, right? Read.
A move from March to January.
Oh, wow. That's the title. A move from March to January. First thing. So what does that tell you? Oh, they changed that thing. What does Daniel 7:25 tell you? Read that real fast. Right off the top, they changed that thing. Everyone always knew the new year was somewhere around March, April. But what has happened? Read it.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
We are the saints. Read.
And think to change times and laws.
And that's what they have done. They changed things. It's a what? Bring it back up. A move.
From March to January.
A move. That's what happened with the new year. Read.
The celebration of the new year on January 1st is a relatively new phenomenon.
It's a what?
Relatively new phenomenon.
That thing is new. What we hold so fast to. Can't wait. That thing is new on the earth. That is new. These people called it a phenomenon even. That thing is new. That was never no such thing as celebrating the new year in the dead of the winter. Read.
The earliest recording of a new year celebration is believed to have been in Mesopotamia, c. 2000 BC. And was celebrated around the time of the vernal equinox in mid-March.
You see that? That's when it was always celebrated. Read on.
A variety of other dates tied to the seasons were also used by various ancient cultures. The Egyptians, Phoenicians, and Persians began their new year with the fall equinox. And the Greeks celebrated it on the winter solstice.
Oh, that's why it's so important to celebrate it in the middle or the dead of the winter. Because of the winter solstice. Bring that up. Just click on it in case the people don't know what the winter solstice is. And you notice it said the Greeks. So why are we celebrating it today? Because we're still under the Greek-Roman captivity. We're still under the so-called white man. That's why. We're still under the Edomites, Idumeans. Just read that part.
December 21st marks the solstice, the beginning of winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. Winter solstice, December 21st.
Scroll up. Right there.
In astronomy, the solstice is either of the two times a year when the sun is at its greatest distance from the celestial equator, the great circle on the celestial sphere that is on the same plane as the Earth's equator. In the northern hemisphere, the winter solstice occurs either December 21st or 22nd, when the sun shines directly over the Tropic of Capricorn.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's all we want on that. Go to the next one. The traditions. Same people. But now this is the traditions. Go there.
New Year's tradition, updated December 17th.
I don't even know what this is. I guess it's a song or some All Lang Syne. I guess it's a song. I never did that, so I don't know what that is. But go up.
Auld Lang Syne, the most commonly sung song for English speakers on New Year's Eve.
I don't know that. Okay.
Auld Lang Syne is an old Scottish song.
It's an old what?
Scottish song.
These Idumeans, the Edomites. It's an old Scottish song. You don't know that crap? They do it, I guess. Why? Because they know what they're celebrating. That goes right back to the point. We don't know that. We one party. But they know what they're celebrating. We don't. We hold the traditions of men. Go up. Go to It Is Often.
It is often remarked that Auld Lang Syne is one of the most popular songs that nobody knows the lyrics to.
Right. Read.
Auld Lang Syne literally translates as old long since.
Old long since, because they've always known. Read.
And means times gone by.
Mm-hmm.
The song asks whether old friends and times will be forgotten and promises to remember people of the past with fondness.
So promise to remember people of the past with fondness. Read.
For Auld Lang Syne,
We'll talk,
a cup of kindness, a cup o' kindness yet. The lesser known verses continue this theme, lamenting how friends who once used to run about the brace, brace, and Paul to Goins fine run about the hills and pulled up the daisies, and paid the bun fray, morning sun till dine, paddled in the stream from the morning to dusk.
Raise it
from
up.
morning to dusk.
So what it's talking about is the beginning to the end, or the old to the new. That's what the song is about. Read up, go up to But It Was.
But it was band leader Guy Lombardo and not Robert Burns who popularized the song and turned it into a New Year's tradition. Lombardo first heard Auld Lang Syne in his hometown of London, Ontario, where it was sung by Scottish immigrants when he and his brothers formed the famous dance band.
So now go up. You see that? It said it was performed by Scottish immigrants. Go up. Year's Eve. We want that.
The song became? Nope.
Year's Eve from the 1930s.
Year's Eve from the 1930s. Yep, there we go. Appreciate it, bro. Year's Eve from the 1930s until 1976 at the Waldorf Astoria. In the first years, it was broadcast on radio and then on television. The song became such a New Year's tradition that Life magazine wrote that if Lombardo failed to play Auld Lang Syne, the American public would not believe that the new year had really arrived.
But who knows that? We don't know that. But we celebrating it, though. But don't know nothing about that. But we celebrating it. You see that? This is how much we follow after another man's tradition, not knowing what the heck it's about. This, go up. We don't want that part. Go up, 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 go up. Oh, stop. Go, come back down. Right there. Read that.
Ashigatsu?
Yep.
Ashigatsu, the New Year is the most important holiday in Japan and is a symbol of renewal. In December, various bonkai are...
But they celebrate that. It's a symbol of renewal. That's really all I wanted on that. It's a symbol of renewal. That's what all this is talking about. Everybody who celebrated understand that's what it is. But we don't. But you know what we do? New Year's resolution. Guess what you're celebrating when you say New Year's resolution. What's your New Year's resolution? Pull up the next one I sent. This is what you're celebrating. Celebrating this guy. That's what you're celebrating. This deity, Janus. So we should all have heard of Janus by now, especially by leadership if you see any type of class. This is what you're celebrating. New Year's resolution and bringing in out with the old, in with the new. This is what you're celebrating. You saying, what was that said? Oplanzine? That's what you saying. Read it.
Janus, an ancient Roman religion and myth. Janus.
Oh, an ancient Roman religion and myth. False. Ancient Roman religion and false deity. That's what he's telling you. Or that's what this is telling you. This is what, Wikipedia? This is what it's telling you. Read.
Is the God of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality.
Duality. You see that? Doorways. Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Doorways, passages, frames, and endings.
You see that? Beginnings and endings.
He is usually depicted as having two faces, since he looks to the future and to the past.
You see that? That's what the song was about. That's what everybody who celebrates it knows that's what it's about. Except for unrepentant Israel. We have no idea. Don't know nothing about that. Ain't never heard of it. But we celebrate it year after year after year after year. Go ahead, pull it up.
It is conventionally thought that the month of January is named for Janus. What's that? Lanuraris?
Read.
Lanuraris. But according to
and that's really Januaris, right? Remember, there's no J, so in the original alphabet, it was spelled with an I. Read.
But according to the ancient Roman farmers, Almanacs,
yeah.
Almanacs, Juno was the tutelary deity of the month. Janus presided over the beginning and ending of conflict, and hence war and peace. The gates of building, the gates
war
of
war and peace. You got one God that hints that resembles war and peace. Okay, come on.
The gates of a building in Rome named after him, not a temple, as it is often called, but an open enclosure with gates at each end, were open in time of war, and closed to mark the arrival of peace, which did not happen very often. As a God of transitions, he had functions pertaining to birth and to journeys and exchange.
So this was their God of portals.
And a similar
Go
harbor,
down to the ancient Greeks.
The ancient Greeks had no equivalent to Janus, whom the Romans claimed as distinctively their own.
But we just already read it came from the Greeks. It came from all of that. The Rome took over Greek, so that's why it turned from Greco-Roman Empire to the Rome Empire. It went from Greeks or Greece to Greco-Rome to Rome. They just took it over. That's it. It is the same exact thing. Get out of that. Go to Wisdom of Solomon 14:16.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 16. Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
That's what has happened. Thus, over time, an ungodly custom has been kept as law. Read.
Engraven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
You see that? Engraven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings. That guy used to be worshipped. That false deity was worshipped. Go to Daniel 7:25 again.
Hey, real quick, I was just
Yep,
because
go ahead.
you're talking about this, right? It's two things, real quick. Literally, if you're celebrating New Year's, you're literally in the midst of idolatry. That's one. The other things is that show American Gods that comes on, right? But you just said they used to worship, like literally the show is literally about old American, old gods,
And new
ancient
gods.
gods, and new gods. Technology, the internet, all that is the new gods versus the old gods. Whereas in the show, the gods were only relevant the more that people worship them.
Right.
So they were on this tear. The war was between the gods, whereas the old gods were trying to kill the new gods because they were leaning away from Christmas, Easter, all these different gods. So their path, the thing was they need more worshipers. The more people worship them, the more
They had
the
power.
more they have power.
More strength.
So it's crazy. It's a crazy show, but it just reminded me as we're reading this. That's exactly what that show is representing.
And you know what's heavy about that? Because now the only God that is gone is the black
God. Yep.
The God of terror.
The God of terror. Yep.
He's the only one that's
Anansi,
gone. They
yeah.
took him off the show. Craziness. Go ahead. Read that Daniel 7:25 again.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
This is how it happened. So when we read Wisdom of Solomon 14:16, ungodly customs became law. This is how it happened. This is how it happened. Finish that.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times.
Yes, and that's what has happened. A time, and the dividing of times. Who can tell me what that is real fast? Brother Isaiah.
Hey, shalom, Most High in Christ bless.
Most High Christ bless.
So times, that's 1. Then times is 2, and dividing of times is the 0.5. So you have 3.5.
Okay, all praises. 350 years, right? All praise to the Most High. Go to Acts chapter 5, verse 29.
The book of Acts, chapter 5 and verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
That's what we ought to do. We ought to obey God rather than men. Because again, we started with how we follow after the traditions of man. But we ought to obey God rather than men. That's it on that, right? That's all that is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go to Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. So when does God say the new year is? Because now we know we are to obey God rather than men. So when does God say the new year is?
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16 and verse 1. Observe the month of Abib
God said, observe the month of Abib. Why?
and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
So it said, observe the month of Abib, keep the Passover. Said, for this is when we got brought out of Egypt. Go to Exodus 23, verse 18.
The book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse 18. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning.
Read.
Verse 19. The first of the first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him.
So what is this talking about? This is us leaving up out of what? Out of Egypt. Drop down to verse 14 so we can make sure.
The book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse 14. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib.
You see that? Said it again. Unleavened bread. Also, Passover kicks off unleavened bread. Read.
For in it thou camest out from Egypt.
Said it again. So we know now this is what it's talking about. Read.
And none shall appear before me empty.
All right. So then it goes on to tell you again. Read on. Just finish that, matter of fact.
Yes, sir. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labor, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is the end of the year.
So what's the feast of harvest? I mean, it kind of just said it, right? Feast of harvest, brothers. Feast of harvest. Isaiah's the only one that know. Feast of harvest. Zan, he's halfway. Okay, Zan.
Hey, shalom, leadership.
Hey, shalom.
Feast of Harvest is Feast of Tabernacles.
Nope.
Feast.
It says it right there in the Bible.
Hey, shalom, leadership.
Hey, shalom, my man.
Feast of first fruit.
Right. Feast of first fruits. It says, and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field. Then it says the feast of ingathering. Now, what's the feast of ingathering? Got this one, right?
Feast of Tabernacles.
Right. Feast of Tabernacles. These are the 3 times a year all men must come. Read.
Which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered.
Notice what it said, which is in the end of the year. Why? Because that is the last feast God ordained according to Leviticus 23. The rest of the feasts that we keep are feasts that we won over our enemies. Feast of Dedication, Purim, Destruction of Nicanor. These feasts was because of our our victory over our enemies. But you notice when you read this, it says the end of the year was Feast of Tabernacles. Because why? We went by gathering. Beginning is when we first gathered. End is when we gathered our last time. And then when you read in Leviticus 23, that's why that's the last feast that you read about. Then it moves on to something else. Understand that. Read on.
When thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field, 3 times in a year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord God.
All right. So from there, go to Exodus 12. So we know, we have heard that you keep the month or observe the month of Abib, for in it you do Passover and unleavened bread. Observe the month. This is when we came out of Egypt. Right? Read that. Exodus 12 and 1.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
So this month that he's telling them about shall be to you the beginnings of months. Read.
It shall be the first month of the year.
It shall be the first month of the year. Read.
To you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take.
Drop down to verse. Yeah, read that. Finish that.
They shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers.
So we should take, in the 10th day, we should get the lamb. Verse 6.
Verse 6. The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 6. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
So then we kill that lamb on the 14th day at evening, which is obviously the 15th day. Verse 15.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 15. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread.
So this month, which we've already heard, is what? Abib. Because now it's telling us to eat the unleavened bread. So it's the same thing. When you read it all, start at verse 12.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses.
So this is the month that we left out of Egypt. It is also known as the month of Abib in the Hebrew tongue. It's also told to us that this is the first month of the year. This is, so pull up Abib. Pull up Abib. Oh, I should have sent that to you so you can pull up the right one. But go ahead.
The first of months. The first month of the ancient Hebrew calendar corresponding to Nisan.
Nisan was in our Persian captivity.
And you can see that this is Abib, definition of Abib by Merriam-Webster Dictionary.
Go down, we need more. Find one with more. Click it and see. I mean, it'd be better to do a Bible definition. Matter of fact, just get the
Who got this on?
get the Zondervan. Let's read it out the Zondervan. Huh? Yeah, he got his right there. You guys got one out there to read?
It says the Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary, definition of Abib, page 13. The pre-exilic name for the first month of the year. After the exile of the name was changed to Nisan. It fell about the time of our March and early April.
It fell about the time of March and early April. Why? What's another definition for Abib? Pull that up. Make sure it says ear of corn.
I skipped that part, sir. It's Abib, an ear of corn.
Ear of corn. When can the corn start to grow? When does it get ripe enough to have ear? April or springtime, better yet. And now when you guys talk to people, you know, a lot of times they're not going to understand what you're saying, so I'm going to give you something easy and quick to say as common sense. This is what I love to do. I ask the people what's new about it. That's why the title's called What's New About the New Year. It's the dead of winter. Everything's dead. Ain't nothing new. But in springtime, flowers bloom, brand new. Crops grow, ready to be harvested, brand new. The animals come out with they brand new babies. Everything, nature shows you that that's the new year. Everything's new then. There's nothing new about the dead of the winter. Everything's dead right now. Ain't no leaves on the trees. When do the trees bloom? Oh, in the new year. In the springtime. So that's a quick, easy way to explain it to people who have no understanding. Go to Colossians 2, verse 8. So we got to come out the tradition of men and understand this is what God tells us, right? Read that.
The book of Colossians, chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
Because that's what has happened to us. As a people, we've been spoiled with philosophies and vain deceit. Read.
After the tradition of men.
After what?
After the tradition of men.
That's the problem. We follow after the traditions of man. That is the issue. Read.
After the rudiments of the world and not after Christ.
And not after Christ. We just seen what God said. This is how you follow after Christ, is doing what God said. He said between March, April is the beginning of the year. That's the month we are supposed to observe. It went from Abib to Nisan. Now it's called March, April. Okay? Pull that next one up that I sent you. The one in Column Magazine. Pull that up. Real quick, we got a couple minutes. Read that.
The slaves dread New Year's Day.
You see that? We used to dread New Year's Day that the Romans was pushing on us. Read.
The worst, the grim history of January 1st. Time.
Blow that up so he can read it.
Americans are likely to think of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as a time to celebrate the fresh start that a new year represents. But there is also a troubling side to the holiday's history. In the years before the Civil War, the first day of the new year was often a heartbreaking one for enslaved people in the United States.
So guess what? That's if you don't want to say that you're celebrating Janus, well, celebrating this then. Read.
In the African American community, New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day.
Oh, what does that mean? Read.
Or Heartbreak Day, as the African American
Abolitionist. Yep.
abolitionist journalist William Cooper Neal described it, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them out to someone else.
This is when families got ripped apart. Okay, so you're not celebrating Janus. Now you're celebrating when we got ripped apart as a family. Now you're celebrating when your son's name is no longer your name. Now you're celebrating when your brother's last name became another slave owner's last name. That's why today we all got different last names, thinking that we not brothers and sisters. Don't you know, if you go back, and if you could, because we can't, because they hid it well enough, and you start doing researching, you find out the exact family, brothers, sisters, mother, father, and children, they got different last names because they were sold to different slave owners. Literal, they came out the same womb, but now they got two different last names. One's last name is Jackson, one last name is Williams. But there are brothers, blood brothers, as we like to call it. But they got separated. And when did they get separated? When was the most popular day for the separation? Read it again.
New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day, as the African American abolitionist journalist William Cooper Neal described it, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them to someone else, thus potentially splitting up their families.
Splitting up the families. Read.
The renting out of a slave labor was a relatively common practice in the antebellum South, and a profitable practice.
Antebellum South. Well, you guys all know that movie, huh? Read on.
And a profitable practice for white slave owners.
Yeah, you guys didn't know how far antebellum went, did you? Pull it up. Hiring Day. Keep going so you can read it.
Hiring Day was part of the larger economic cycle in which most debts were collected and settled on New Year's Day, says Alexis McCrossin, an expert on the history of the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and a professor of history at Southern Methodist.
So we all want to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, yay! No, we was like, damn, here we go. Oh Lord, please don't let it happen to us. That's what it was. Ain't no New Year, it was Heartbreak Day. It was families being ripped apart day. That's what it was. Go to the next one, the next article from time.com. Read that. Wait, just go up because we know it's the same thing, but it's something different here that I want. Pull up. Go slow so I can see it. No, keep going. Wait. Keep going. Right there. No, some enslaved people. That's what I want for this one.
Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January. These transactions also took place all year long, and contracts could last for different amounts of time.
Now, wait. We get caught up in what? Oh, we love income tax, don't we? Boy, oh boy. But when do you have to have that W-2 turned in? By the end of what month?
March.
Yeah, that's been going on because that's your contract. That's why you got the people that, the unconscious community, they love to bang on the fact that we're not citizens, we're citizens, because that's true, obviously. They don't care about your name. They care about that social security number. They've been setting that up since this time. That's why everything happens in January when it comes to taxes, when it comes to the... Read that part again.
Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January.
These contracts, read?
These transactions also took place
go ahead.
all year long, and contracts could last for different amounts of time.
Read.
These deals were conducted privately among families, friends, and business contracts. And contacts. And slaves were handed over in town squares, on courthouse steps, and sometimes simply on the side of the road, according to David Mastery, Slave Hiring in the American South.
Now, how you think you finna go to some court and get some justice? Everybody that swears into court got to understand this. You don't get no justice. This is where you was sold off. This is where you was broken up. This is where your families got dispersed to other people. And we think we finna go there and get some justice. We got to be out of our minds. Happy New Year. Pull up. Read that.
Accounts of the cruelty of hiring day came from the records left by those who secured their freedom, who described spending the day before January 1st, hoping and praying that their hirers would be humane and that their families could stay together.
That's how we got the understanding of this. Why? Because people who got their freedom wrote about it. We said this is what happens. We're not going to read the rest. Go to Psalms 55, verse 23. Yep. Go to Psalms 55, verse 23. This is it. Last two scriptures.
The book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 23.
Uh-huh.
But thou, O God, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction.
But what did God say?
But thou, O God, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction.
They're going to get brought down to the pit of destruction, and that's what we're seeing today. Read.
Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days.
You see that? Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days. Read.
But I will trust in thee.
So that's what we got to do. We got to trust in the Lord. We see it happening. All praises to the Most High. It's happening. Read first Proverbs verse 11. Proverbs 11 verse 18.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 18. The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward.
So, long as we continue to sow righteousness, we will get our sure reward. We will get our sure reward. All right, family? So all praises to the Most High. Hopefully something got brought to your light and you got some sort of edification from it, all right?
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are how men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.